What is up, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Rover Sports. I'm Big Al, along with the Bruce, the sports doc, the man, the myth, the legend, and soon, hopefully, by Spencer G. What's going on, Doc?
Well, it's good to be here tonight, and a lot happening. This is a great time of year, as we're just on the eve of Eagles football. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be playing a team that's usually wounded, the Washington Redskins, and a lot of discussion right now in the Delaware Valley deals with who's going to make it, who's going to get cut, and who's not. So I think we want to lead off maybe by talking about people on the bubble for the team and whether certain players are going to start the year injured, that is not play at all, or are they going to actually be playing. And one Fletcher Cox was very coy today when asked whether he's going to start. So you figured if he was really healthy, he would just answer, I'm definitely going to be ready to start, but he said, I don't know. You have to find out.
And the other big news is Deshaun Jackson breaking his finger.
I didn't even hear that.
Oh, okay.
So I've been busy working. I've been breaking my tail, and he's breaking his finger.
Yeah.
Which finger was it?
I forget. I forget what they said, which finger it is. But they're fitting him for a brace that hopefully he could still play with. But right now they're saying it's about 3 to 4 weeks for a full healing of it. So it'll be seen if he will play with the broken finger. I guess if he can practice with it, maybe he'll get a few snaps. I mean, I think you just kind of proved a point. Hopefully, it being the Washington Redskins will give them a chance to maybe not, anybody who can't start week one, it's not the end of the world. We're not playing one of the more elite teams, but it is still a rivalry divisional game that usually gets very heated. So time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll be doing is certainly looking at the broken finger, listening carefully and reporting back on Rover Sports to do a special podcast just on the injury itself. And certainly that's we were just talking, we have Spencer G. in Casa here, that Deshaun Jackson broke a finger today. I don't know if you heard that.
How long is he going to be out?
That's an interesting question. He might be fitted with a splint, and he might be able to return to practice pretty soon. If he was a defensive lineman, what would they do? They'd put a big cast on, and then. But so I don't want to speculate, but it's just a shame. Whenever was this? I guess he got injured in practice. I imagine. Al, is that what you heard?
Yes, it was during practice. So he apparently broke it during practice. Like I said, it's a 3 to 4 week window. But they're saying they're not concerned. Is the quote that they put out right now? They're not really concerned.
It's not a huge deal.
Yeah,
but he's going to be out for the first 2 weeks of the regular season.
They're not saying that. I think they're fitting with the brace and seeing how well he can do with it.
And what hand is it on?
I'll tell you right now.
It doesn't matter. I guess it matters if it's his right hand. I mean, the one thing about Deshaun is that he's going to be catching a lot of deep balls, but he's not a jump ball guy anyway. So,
well, you had to hope. We don't know. The thumb is actually the worst to break. The thumb or index finger, they would be much worse. Obviously, the pinky finger would be least relevant because you could always buddy tape that or fit that with a splint, and it's hard to say. The end of the distal part of the finger, you could actually fracture it. In fact, one of our guys, AJ, who's D1 golfer, actually dropped a weight on the end of his finger, and he's going to be able to wear a splint, and he's going to be able to start the golf season. But because the golf club will not be touching the tip of his little finger. But obviously football, when the football comes in, it's pretty hard to prevent it from hitting all of your fingers.
And just so you know, up to date, they just kind of posted some roster moves. The Eagles signed safety Jason Thompson and waived Trey Sullivan.
Yeah, so Trey Sullivan, who was one of the heroes of last year, came in as one of the bad news bears in the New Orleans Saints game. He had a fairly good game, Spencer. You were there. Do you remember Trey Sullivan?
I mean,
I don't remember him being great.
I don't really remember him that much.
Actually, you know what I do remember? I remember him getting burnt a lot. So
hence why.
Well, Drew Brees had a big game in the Saints game. I don't think anybody on the defensive side really played well against New Orleans, but you can't prevent a finger injury. You can be on a jug machine and the ball hits your finger in the wrong spot. So, I mean, but the Eagles, their wide receivers are so stacked with this Stanford guy Whiteside, with Nelson Aguilar still being on the roster. I think Dallas Goedert can actually start for some teams as a tight end. So you have him that can catch. He's fast. You also have Ertz, probably the top 3 tight end in the league. So on the scale of guys that are going to be injured, Deshaun Jackson, I think he's past his prime anyway. I think he's just going to be used in spots. I don't expect that much out of Deshaun Jackson. Definitely not compared to Jeffrey. I don't. I mean, Deshaun will start, but I'm expecting only like 400 yards maybe from him this season. A couple of big plays here and there, but
he can get 400 yards in 6 plays, so that's kind of lowballing it.
Well,
if we could just put it.
Do you really think Deshaun? Well, Deshaun with Fitzpatrick was good last year. I'll give him that. But how old is Deshaun Jackson? 30
or 31, I believe.
Yeah. So
it's his ring finger, but. Of course,
it is his ring finger.
Oh, which hand? I'm trying to find that out right now because they only just say ring
finger.
Well,
ring finger is second best option.
Yeah.
Pinky being the worst, but maybe it's the tip of the ring finger. You Spencer.
Middle finger is worse.
Middle finger's worse. Thumb is actually the worst. The thumb really is the most important digit for catching a ball or fine motor coordination. So the ring finger isn't bad. And if it was the tip of his finger, he could wear a splint. It potentially, if it's a non-displaced fracture, that means the bone is not displaced, he could potentially play and practice and do all that. So we're going to find out, but it's just a shame when injuries crop up.
Spencer,
it's funny.
It's not
just
good.
Ring finger. Nobody's saying left hand, right hand. It just says ring finger.
Yeah, I guess both hands are kind of important. I want to switch gears while Al's looking up the medical report there. The big news this week was it took us all by surprise. Andrew Luck retired. And also along with that, the fact that he had to do an impromptu news conference and the reaction of the team, the reaction of the Colts. A lot of people folded the Colts. That's hard to say. Colt. They folded them for booing him at the end. And I know you did a pretty heated analysis on Rover Sports last night. Let's bring that up again. What are your thoughts? Are these Colts bad fans, or do you think this was a normal situation for them to get upset by that?
Totally excusable situation because the franchise went from being one of the best franchises in the NFL, and now at the most important position in your franchise, you now are left with the cupboard barren. And you look at all the franchises that have had terrible runs. Horrible runs. The Buffalo Bills, they go from J.P. Lossman to Fitzpatrick, bad quarterbacks upon bad quarterbacks. The Redskins had Patrick Ramsey, Rex Grossman, Jason Campbell. What say the Colts don't have a run of bad quarterbacks? The Colts hit the lottery by getting Andrew Luck after Peyton Manning, so they didn't have to feel the recovery factors of how brutal Peyton's departure was for that franchise, and for these Colts fans, they just watched their franchise go up in flames right there on Saturday night, the most shocking retirement you could argue in the history of the sport. So I think that any fan has the right to act in any particular manner when something this unprecedented happens, and there's a reason why they wanted the press conference on a Sunday and not a Saturday. Because why would they want the press conference to be on a Sunday? Because they knew the fan base would react in that kind of manner. It's so Aaron Rodgers and all these other guys are so disappointed in the fan base. There's a reason why you want to announce the retirement on a Sunday in private, because they knew are the fans going to be happy? Are they going to clap and get excited when the franchise quarterback who they expect to play for 10 or 15 more years is suddenly leaving the NFL at 29 years old? It's not just about this season. And just 2 days ago on Wednesday, Frank Reich said in his press conference, quote, Andrew Luck is coming along great, and we expect him to be ready for week 1. And Frank Reich knew that Andrew Luck was retiring, so he completely was so deceitful to the fan base. The medical staff, deceitful to the Colts fan base, and the Colts and the PR department completely have botched Andrew Luck, not only for this year, but for pretty much years on years now. The PR department has been untrustworthy with these people.
Well, here's my thing is, and I agree that the way it happened, you're in the middle of a crappy preseason game.
Horrible.
You're on the cuffs on the third preseason game, so like right now you're chomping at the bit for some real football. And you found out your star quarterback is retiring just out of the blue. And part of you goes, well, why now? Why didn't he do this earlier? Why are we doing this literally a couple weeks before the start of the season? So to react and start booing, that's a natural reaction. That's like, and I don't want to say natural, but it's an emotional reaction.
It's an emotional reaction because we would feel that way, I believe.
Well, there'd be plenty of people booing if Carson.
So here's the idea: if Carson was 29 and he had an ankle, so you think of an ankle. Now, again, his ankle hasn't healed. He's had a high ankle strain. He's had tendonitis. He's been rehabbing all summer. And apparently, just what we're finding out is he's not making any progress, and he doesn't know. And even after retirement, he still has a big ankle problem. Yeah. So when you think about an ankle, you think about Cam Newton. That's the guy who's gotten all the publicity. But if you watch him now, he's progressing. He threw in practice yesterday. Cam Newton wasn't able to drop back. And so it just comes out of the blue. You knew he had a terrible shoulder. So, look at Chad Pennington. But if you remember,
right, he had
Chad
a great
Pennington,
year last year.
Like, he overcame it and had a good year. Chad Pennington, it seemed like he had 6 shoulder surgeries. But that guy just kept on coming back. So you didn't hear much about Andrew Luck's ankle. So if you're a Colts fan, you see Andrew Luck on, just like Carson Wentz, nobody's in uniform. You expect him to just roll into the season and be your starter, and you hear he's retiring, and he looks fine. Doesn't have an arrow in his head like Steve Martin.
It's not like an injury. It's not like cheering
an
an
injury.
So
it's kind of an invisible injury because he's standing there on the sidelines. Yeah. That had to be surprising.
And the other part is, don't forget, a lot of the big time names out there have touted the Colts to represent the AFC,
of course,
in the Super Bowl. So that also,
it's got to be crushing.
I mean, could you imagine right now this season?
But you're living for football.
It's not only for this year, but for the next 10 years.
Could you imagine if it ever happened where your 29-year-old quarterback retired? There's no notice at all. So I guess, number one, if you cheered, you'd almost be cheering the retirement. So certain people, I bet a lot of people were stunned. Well, the fact is, a lot of people were stunned, and you didn't. But the people who were vocal are the ones you heard. The boos.
Well, Bruce, if you would have been apathetic, like if Tavares Jackson retired, the fan base would have went like, okay, good, get him out of here, Or if Kevin Cobb retired, the Eagles fans would have shown no reaction. The fact that they're angry is even more respect to Andrew Luck, because that's how much he means in their life. He's never going to be an Indianapolis Colt ever again. You should be angry.
Hold on, something you just said. Two things is,
that's an interesting point, Al. I know where you're going.
Number one is, are they booing him or are they booing the situation? And I kind of would tend to lean towards the situation.
I think they were booing the situation. It's terrible. Their season's over.
Who would call Luck weak? He's been hurt every year. He had Chuck Pagano. He took punishment on top of punishment. I think every fan respects what he's done.
And also, I know a lot of other players have come out in support of Andrew Luck.
I mean, of course, who's going to bash him, though?
The Eagles' own Zach Ertz, who played at Stanford with him, he of course went to his back and everything. And
no one's going. First of all,
the point is everybody thinks, all right, well, here's a guy. He has a lot more money to make. I mean, he has a lot long career to have, at least another 5 or 6 good solid years in him. And the guy, apparently his family's well off. He has made a good chunk of money already, and he made a life decision. And it can't be an easy one to say, my well-being, my ability to be a good family man, I got to do this. And he's a smart guy. And some people we know, there is many people out there who have said if they knew better, they would probably retire over. Megatron, let's take him for a second. Here's a guy who retired early. He had another good 4 or 5 years, 6 years involved, left in him probably easily. And, I guess because it isn't it was a big-time name to Detroit, but in a different fan base.
I think that it was. I think that's different. I want to talk about Calvin Johnson. The reason he retired is because Detroit's one of the worst franchises in the NFL. The Colts were just turning the corner. They have Frank Reich. You have a stable organization, a stable fan base. Detroit wasn't doing anything. Andrew Luck, if he played for 6 more seasons, he might have won a Super Bowl. And if Andrew Luck wins a Super Bowl, he's going to Canton, Ohio. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. And he just gave that away. And here's another point, is that when you look at quarterbacks and you look at evaluating quarterbacks, there's a reason with Josh Rosen from UCLA. He had all these interests outside of football. And this is more credit to general managers, because you sometimes want to draft a player that doesn't have a lot of interests outside of football. Look at Brett Favre. Football was everything to Brett Favre. He went to Southern Mississippi. He was a football lifer. He couldn't give away the game. The minute he stopped playing football, the biggest part of his life was taken away. But you look at Andrew Luck, he's a brilliant architect. He's a Stanford guy. There's even more potential to make money outside of football for Andrew Luck. That's important when you're evaluating a quarterback to select. Jake Locker left the game early, so you need to pick sometimes a guy that's all bought in and loves football.
And don't forget, nobody says he's out of football permanently. Here's the thing: it's just a little piece of information. He's getting to keep $26 million of his signing bonus. Do you think they did that just because they really liked him, or because there's a chance that maybe he takes a year off, he heals, maybe he feels better and comes back in a year or maybe two? I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Why didn't he say that though initially, Al?
Why would you say that?
I don't think he had any time to prepare.
Why can't you say I'm taking a year to think?
Well, you can't leave that door, because if he doesn't do it, then he's even more on the
right. He's even worse. So Spencer.
Okay.
So firstly, I was researching the history.
Mm-hmm.
In the history of sports, the last time a quarterback just abruptly retired, was probably in 1950s. A guy who had a year like he had, and then just retired early, electively. This is an elective retirement. And so that's, I think, the shock part of it. There's other positions that retired. Barry Sanders retired early. Mm-hmm. He was a great player. He just stepped away from the game.
Yeah.
The guy from the Minnesota Vikings who actually went to medical school.
Percy Harvin?
I don't think he retired that early. Wait,
who from the Vikings?
Robert Smith. Rob Smith. Okay. He actually went to medical school. He retired like around 29. He was a very good runner, if you remember, for the Vikings.
Did Eddie George retire early?
No, I think he had a pretty long career. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
Eddie George is. But I think for a guy to have a year as good as Luck had without a catastrophic injury, this is not a Joe Theismann femur displaced fracture that's so ugly people are turning away. The ankle strain is a relatively quiet or invisible injury. The fact he was standing on the field, ran on the field, people are seeing him there. They're watching him. Strong guy. He's good. He looks like he's as good as ever. So I think it was just a shock, and I believe the fans were unprepared for that announcement.
Of course. That's why the announcement was supposed to be on Sunday.
And as we know in this this day and age, I mean, even during the draft, you know who's being picked minutes before it happens because they announce it on Twitter or something. And that's what happened. Apparently, it was one of his friends or something, let the cat out of the bag or something on the situation. But my point is, it's one of those things you can't, and I'm going to use this as an example. Like, I think some of the athletes take things too personally. I mean, an athlete by definition is usually an emotional creature because you have to go from a warrior to a normal guy, back to a warrior, back to a normal guy. It's normal to see an emotional person be an athlete. The point is, and I think they took a little quickly to jump on people because I think you have to understand is you invest as a fan. We invest in these guys. We buy their jerseys. We take time to watch their games, fantasy football, go to the games, spend money, take time from our families.
Exactly.
There's a lot of investment that comes from us. So to find out in the abrupt fashion at the timing, because could you imagine? I made this point the other night. Could you imagine if this happened earlier in the season? Because you know who would be right now would be a Colts quarterback if this happened maybe back in February.
Brissett.
Foles. You don't think Foles would be the starting quarterback for the Colts right now if this happened back in February?
They don't view Foles that highly in NFL.
You're telling
circles.
me Frank Reich wouldn't what?
Well, what was Foles traded for to Jacksonville? A
Nothing.
4th round pick?
They got really. They got.
That's exactly right. They think Brissett's just as good.
I think I differ with that. I think if Foles was still available, he'd be on that team in a heartbeat.
But I don't think you'd get anything for him.
Well, if he was still under contract.
We have a question. Firstly, I want to mention that we are certainly sponsored by Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. That's a really exciting practice that Al and I are associated with, and Spencer too. And this essentially involves delivering adult stem cells, your own stem cells, to your joints. And I think you've all heard about stem cells. So as you can see, if you want to inquire about it, there's always a free consultation. The choices are, let's say you tear a rotator cuff, partial tear. Let's say you have a Tommy John type injury. The first step will be either PRP, which is whole blood, or bone marrow. And again, the number 610-222, that's 222-5675, basically doesn't involve any surgery, doesn't involve any medications, and certainly our big sponsor that's paying for this airtime is Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. We want to thank them for that. But we had a question from Lisa from Reading, who's one of our big fans, and she had a question about as far as emotional players. This was a big story today. Sean Rodriguez is a guy is not hitting over the Mendoza line. He came out last night and he essentially attacked the fans. He said that the fans are entitled. So you hear that word, entitlement? He said the fans were entitled too much and that they shouldn't boo him because they're destroying his morale. And what do you think about that word, entitlement? So when I hear the word entitlement, Spence, and I'm going to let you answer, I think about people that are affluent, that are born with a silver spoon, that are maybe lazy, and they're not like him. He's a hard worker. But he said the fans are entitled. What do you think of that quote? Just what's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm going to think about this for a second.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard it. No,
he's not wrong.
No,
he's not wrong in the sense that we are entitled.
No, I'm ready to.
But in the wrong way.
I'm ready to
We're
talk.
entitled to guys not stinking.
No, I'm ready to talk. But,
Okay, you're ready to talk. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Go
All
right
right.
ahead.
So I look at Sean Rodriguez, and
You say, who's that? No, I'm just kidding.
I think that the fans booing can sometimes be very. I think it could be negative for a player to hear that, but your job as a player is that these fans are going to the game. They're allowed to act however they act, and you need to pretty much hit. You need to hit better. You need to play better. But is this an everyday player or it's not?
No.
This guy's a fringe player.
Yeah.
Who should have been sent down to the minors, but
He's
instead
on the team because
that's
he's friends with
that's what I'm.
Let's be honest.
But here's the thing, though. If this guy is not playing that much, he's not going to be a good hitter unless he's an everyday baseball player. So Kapler needs to play him. I respect the guy for saying this. I love honesty from athletes. I love this line attacking the fans. I really do. I agree with the fans, but I love Sean's honesty in this case because we just talked about how Zach Ertz defended Andrew Luck retiring. No one is not defending Andrew Luck retiring. That's a straw man's argument. The people the people like Aaron Rodgers that are saying it's okay for Andrew Luck to retire, they're not saying anything brave or anything groundbreaking, but this Sean Rodriguez quote is absolutely stellar. It took big balls to completely alienate himself from the fan base, and the bottom line is he's not doing well, so I do side with the fans, but I give Sean a lot of credit for coming out and being very honest here in this interview. This interview from Sean Rodriguez is the most entertaining interview probably in baseball in the past 2 months in this city, so I give him a lot of credit for that.
I'll agree with you. Maybe entertaining to a point, but that's about as far as it goes.
But do you disagree with it?
I disagree. Listen, everybody has a right to their opinion. It's called the First Amendment. You can say what you wish.
Sure.
But when you're a borderline nobody, and
You hit one walk-off hit in your life.
That's
and
why
then
I
you stick
respect
to
it
the
even
fans.
more. It's like Kenny
We're talking
Powers.
about Sean Rodriguez now.
So take the
He's
whole
like
thing in
he's
context.
like Kenny Powers.
Take the no.
Kenny Powers.
At least he was somebody at one point. He my point is, take it in context. He comes off. He's the hero of the night, and within minutes, changes that. He comes off as the hero of the night. He wins the game. He finally gets to be center of attention when he normally isn't. He doesn't get a lot of playing time. I get it. But he's also playing in a league where the guy who makes the least amount is $500,000. $500,000 to play baseball. Okay? If it wasn't for these entitled fans, he would not be making bare minimum $500,000.
I like the hand gestures,
Yes,
too.
because we are
Very important.
We are
to
entitled.
the discussion.
Yes, we are entitled. We are entitled to our opinion. And listen, if people get out, I'll kill you. I hope you die. All right, those things are.
Well, that's terrible.
That
but
should
merely
not say that to
booing
another
the
human
guy
being.
because he's hitting below the Mendoza line. We're talking about Sean Rodriguez.
What does he expect?
He came out. Stephen Shoemaker's here. I wanted you to weigh in. You know, I listened to the whole interview, and I kind of understand about how booing can demoralize people and all that. But when he said the fans were entitled, that's where he crossed the line for me, because the entitlement is kind of a buzzword for, you know, millennials and that the people who go to the game to go to a Phillies game. It's $30 to park. It's $10 a hot dog. It's, I don't know, the beers.
$9-10 a beer.
It's
$100 some
$10
a
The
ticket.
beer is
to
horrible,
call out
too.
to call out the
Horrible
people that pay,
beer.
It isn't good. It is not good beer.
And the hot dogs are not good.
They are not good. In fact, the last time I've been into
I
one, it had
disagree with
veins in it. It was terrible. But on that note, Steve, what do you think about entitlement? Do you agree that the fans are entitled, or do you disagree when a player like Sean Rodriguez of the Phillies comes out and sticks it to you?
I think they're entitled, absolutely. And then it's Philly tough love. You look at a game come back tonight, he could go over 3 with 3 strikeouts, and that walk-off home run is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything if the next game you go over 3. I was reading some of the comments online, and ex-Phillies pitcher Brett Myers was saying about how everybody was after his comments, after what he did, the home run is meaningless.
Oh, yeah.
So
a game-winning home run in extra innings became like the third story of the Phillies.
that's
today.
the highlight of his
like
career.
that's like down, and it's not even that important. He literally, the question wasn't like, are you upset people are booing? The question that was posed to him was, we know you don't get a lot of time, you don't get a lot of chance to come up. You've been kind of going on you're 1 for 20 or in the last 20 or something like that. What's it feel like when you finally get a chance to come up and win a game-winning home and hit a game-winning home
against
run
his ex-team.
And then against his ex-team. What is he saying?
He comes back firing roundhouses against the fans.
And
that was
and like he
surprising.
was supporting-
That became the lead story. Al, is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah.
That became the lead story.
That win
It's really-
almost like it wasn't. He would have been better off striking out last night.
No, it's horrific, and here's why it's so terrible, because the Phillies have Bryce Harper. They're spending all this money. They go out, they give up 19 runs to the Miami Marlins of Miami, which, I mean, that Miami team, they can't score 19 runs in a month. And the Phillies this year have been up and down. There's no consistency here. There's no reason for him to be saying that. You know, even it's so funny. Sean Rodriguez is going to leave the Phillies, and we're going to have a bad taste in our mouths about him because he's not going to ever achieve the status
Well, it's the only way
of a
everybody's
great
gonna remember
player.
him.
And guess what? I still remember Jimmy Rollins' comments about the fans, and that's Jimmy Rollins, a Hall of Fame Philly.
Well, here's my
I still
thing is,
remember that.
The only way now that anybody's going to remember Sean Rodriguez was on this team next year is because he said something flippin' stupid. I mean, that's the only reason.
Exactly.
And
That's the only reason we're talking about him
but
now.
I'm-
That home run barely got out. Come on, that was a weak.
That was a
screaming line drive.
Yeah.
That was a weak home run too.
My point is he has a right to his opinion. He can feel as he is. Yes, it is understandable, like I said, for an athlete to be an emotional creature, and if he wants to take his only little chance to have a soapbox to start downplaying the need for the fans, because yes, we are entitled to our opinion just as much as he's entitled to fact to say, hey, you guys are jackasses.
So Sean Rodriguez too. He's never going to play long enough, Bruce, to get to. There's no way he can come back from these comments unless he apologizes and unless he produces. Because when he calls the Philly fans entitled, I think he burned his bridge with the city forever. And
Well,
he's
we're gonna
like the
see-
heel. And this isn't WWE. You know, this is Major League Baseball. And he
You know what I really wonder?
It served him no good at all. I mean,
I
it
really
was
wonder-
self-destruct.
I really wonder if somebody's going to sit him down. If Clentak's going to sit him down, if the coach is going to sit him down, if they have any sense for public relations. The thing is, a lot of people can say that this particular manager is kind of dissociated from the fans. When they're playing bad, he's always putting a bright spin on it. They tried hard. They could have 2 hits in the game, and he'll say they looked at a lot of pitches. And that drives us crazy because we like to see guys that go in there, like Gene Mark. We like to see guys knock over a water cooler. This is Philly. Yeah. This is blue-collar town. And this guy, Gabe Kapler, does it. He does it, for the most part, connect with the town.
He's soft.
He is considered like an L.A. guy. He's smooth. He's talking about
California
launch
style.
angles, and he's talking about all kinds of things.
He's a vegan.
We're used to Charlie Manuel. Charlie comes out. He just tells it bluntly. See ball, hit ball. Like, we like a guy who's more like a caveman. That's why it's great to have Charlie back, because Charlie is the guy. I'm sure, age at 75 or however old he is, if he was announced the manager, I bet they would sell out the rest of the game. That's how much they love Charlie Manuel.
Gabe Kapler is kind of very arrogant. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room at all times. And Charlie Manuel is the most humble guy in the world. Charlie
He's humble,
Manuel
but
is the friendliest guy, and you have the memories of the World Championship. And the thing about Charlie Manuel is that Charlie Manuel completely deflects. It's not all about him. Where with Gabe Kepler, when you think of the Phillies, you think of Gabe Kepler. Charlie Manuel took a backseat to public persona and let his players like Ryan, Howard, Raul, he let them have the spotlight in a selfless manner.
Well, here's the number one thing: is Charlie Manuel. They're not ever gonna bring him back because apparently Middleton and all the guys up top there are high on analytics, and that's not Charlie Manuel. Charlie Manuel move bringing him back was purely a PR. Maybe get the juices going, sacrificial lamb of the other hitting coach.
Yep.
Just to kind of get the juices going, which worked for about a week, give or take. And that's kind of how it works. But they're too analytic based, and some guys are like that.
Kind of like the bamboo plant or the rally monkey.
Yeah, right.
There's you turn your hat around.
That's a goner. 2-0. I can't. I'm so distracted. I'm too distracted.
Yeah. Well.
Should
we give you real-time updates here. This is a live show. Why don't you give us an update?
Should we keep the TV on? Because I get really distracted. Or maybe should I sit over there?
No, you'll be fine. You'll be. You know what?
It off.
The fact that don't turn it off.
Want to turn it off for 20 more minutes?
No. The fact that there's a baseball game and you can't stop watching it, it's like you're looking at Medusa, you're going to turn to stone.
Well,
it's not like you're watching a football game.
I have ADHD, ADD. Attention deficit, high definition.
Yeah, high definition ADD. It means when you see it, you Phillies on H2, you got to watch.
Do you think we see Sean Rodriguez in this game tonight?
He's in the lineup.
He's starting?
What do you think the fans are going to do? Boo!
I'm sure he can. The thing is you rattled a cage you shouldn't have rattled. That wasn't smart for him. And like I said, you can be upset with how fans act. I don't care if it was Andrew Luck getting booed, if it was. You don't make millions of dollars playing a game if it isn't for guys like the fans who come out, spend their hard-earned money, sometimes little that they have, to go to games, buy overexpensive food and beer, pay for overexpensive parking, buy overly expensive jerseys and other paraphernalia, all that stuff throughout their entire lives.
Well, we've got a great comment. Dr. Stu Cohen, who's one of our great guys, one of our friends. He made a note. It says, I'm just watching this garbage to see Rodriguez get torched when he comes up. So I think that's something you might have to turn the sound on when he comes up.
Bruce, here's a question. Why isn't Tebow, Kaepernick, Manziel in the NFL? Because their talent does not outweigh their distraction. And this Sean Rodriguez guy is totally not talented enough for him to outweigh the negative publicity that this
is forgotten
offers
tomorrow. Let's be honest. Sean Rodriguez,
not at all. I think he gets booed tomorrow.
By the end of the week,
I agree. I think it's forgotten. If you look at if it was say Bryce Harper who said something like that, then maybe that's.
If Sean Rodriguez comes up tomorrow, fans are still not going to like Shawnee Rodriguez.
I got to tell you, we're doing a watch party right now on Facebook. We got some really cool people logging in. Thanks.
I'm sorry.
I remember last night.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
I said
so thank you. So here's the deal. We got Jamal Jackson. We've got Jason Bloom. We've got Ray Ellis from Arizona, former Eagles great player on our watch party. We've got Greg LaMonica on here. So I want to thank everybody. This is amazing. This is Tuesday night. We've got a great watch party. We are Rover Sports, and now we're switching gears.
Yeah, baby.
To right in your wheelhouse, Steven Shoemaker. I want to know who doesn't make the team. They're cutting it down to 53. Let's go position by position. I'm putting you in a hot seat. What running backs will not make it? What running backs will be cut? You're a fantasy wizard, Steven. Who is not making it? Go right ahead.
Let's go. How about we go with the ones who are making it? We can start.
Okay, let's start the ones who are making
Jordan
it.
Jordan Howard,
Miles
Miles Sanders, Corey Clement, Josh Adams. The rest of them are gone. Those four.
You take Josh Adams.
Yes.
You think Josh Adams over Smallwood? Because they always just seem to have a soft spot for Smallwood.
Yes, because I think they really.
Well, you forgot one guy. You forgot Mighty Mouse.
Oh, Sproles.
Sproles is on the list.
Sproles stays too.
So guess what?
Here's
That's
my thing with that is.
So Al, what are your Spence? Your thoughts? Who's not going to get?
I got you, Al, on that one. You were ready to jump in and Bruce swing the pendulum on you to me. All right, I'm going to say Adams stays, and I'm going to say Adams leaves. So you have Sproles, Howard,
Sanders.
Sproles, Howard, Sanders, and who was the last?
Corey
Corey
Clement.
Clement. Those are my 4. Go ahead, Al.
Because it could be coming down even during the show. The Clowney trade is in the works. It looks like it's between Seattle and Eagles right now.
I heard that.
That could involve Smallwood and Alshon Jeffrey.
Or it could involve Adams because they're looking for that north-south runner.
They lost Lamar Miller.
I would love to give him. I would fly Adams. I would drive him to the airport.
For him. Drive him to the airport.
Why would the Texans do that?
No, but that's just part of it. I mean, there might be more. They need a wide receiver. They need, and I say a lot right now. The thoughts
Houston
are
Texans.
You give him Alshon, or you give him Alshon. You give him Aguilar,
Charlie,
and then they also need a running back, and they need an offensive tackle. So you might see Big V out the back door as well.
He's been in a lot of trade rumors with Big V.
No, this is who I think. If I'm Houston, this is who I want.
Okay,
I'll
ahead.
negouse with you since you
Here
guys
we
are
go.
the big Eagles
Let's go.
fans.
We got the GMs here.
This is who I want.
No, not kidding.
All right, first round pick for Clowney's talent.
Next year, you mean?
Yeah, let me finish my proposal.
All right.
A first rounder, Mailata or Dillard. Preferably, I'd want Dillard, but Mailata for sure.
Dillard
George
is
Mailata.
not on the table.
What?
That's 2 first-round picks. Get out of here.
Fine. So I'll take.
Get out of here, Houston.
Fine. I'll take Mailata.
Okay.
I'll take Jeffrey and a first rounder.
That's a lot. That's pretty steep.
You're not going to get a first rounder now, Alshon Jeffrey. You're not going to get a first rounder in one of our other first rounders. So that's just not going to happen.
Mailata, Howard, and a first rounder.
No, you're not going to get
Howard.
Now Howard could
We
be.
just got Howard.
Now here's the thing.
Howard's not even that good.
The only. Well,
He's your only really big receiver.
He's your
you ever
north-south runner.
stood next to
Now, I
Howard?
can see-
Howard is big.
He's a third
Corey
down
Clement's
backup.
small.
He's a third down backup.
Sproles is really small.
No,
Mighty Mouse.
Miles Sanders is the guy. Howard will get. He's only a third down power back. He's not that good.
He's our goal line rusher.
If they offer just for Howard, like a swap for Howard, maybe like a fourth.
A first and Howard.
I think they would. They're not going to get a first and Howard. You're not going to get a first in one of our starters.
But how
That
about
is
Nelson
not gonna
Aguilar?
happen.
Some
Because
people
here's the
think
thing
that
is-
Aguilar. By the way, Aguilar is in the last year of his contract. He's got a hefty contract. I would, and I like him, but I would drive him to the airport.
Yeah.
I would certainly drive. I would give him a first rounder at Aguilar.
I don't think he's a first rounder.
Clowney's a beast. He's like a top 5
He's a complete
defensive
beast.
end.
He is a beast.
So you're
how
good.
old he is?
Maybe
He's
a second
26
rounder.
years old.
But that's the
Clowney
point.
would be great.
But
Wouldn't
you
be
guys
excited to have
are
him?
Yeah.
thinking
Oh.
you're just going to get Clowney for a fourth rounder.
Well,
and a you have to.
Let me.
You have to consider
Let me
it.
explain my my side of it.
Okay.
Number one is they might be under some they might be in trouble with the Players Association because the kind of BS they pulled with Clowney because they franchise him as a linebacker, which is cheaper.
That's interesting.
And that's a big thing to think about. So unload. And here's the other thing: the man doesn't want to play there. So now you have a guy who could just sit out and say, "Forget you. I'm not playing, and I'm going to sit out." So he's useless to them. They have to unload him. So they're not going to get
in Seattle. But what would Seattle?
Well, Seattle.
I mean, I think I'd rather go to the Eagles. You know why? This is a showcase year for Clowney, because if he comes on a 1-year deal, he could get $120 million multi-year deal. And if you come to the Eagles, firstly, I see Seattle as a team that's been waning. They still have Russell Wilson, but the Eagles are a team that's geared up, and this team is well coached. If I'm Clowney, I come to the Eagles, and you either ask them to pony up a lot of money, or you're a big
As
free
a
agent next
Giants
year.
fan, I would be definitely afraid of Clowney. I'm afraid of this
put
happening.
Fletcher Cox and Clowney in one corner and tell me you're not.
And Brandon Graham.
Every O lineman's not sleeping.
And
with
now
the
Derek
line.
Barnett is a second-string guy, which is crazy.
Put it this way:
It would
there's a
be
lot of,
unfair.
There's a lot of different. There's a lot of different angles to look here. Clowney's a 1-year rental because you can't make it. You can't make a deal right now because of the franchise tag.
That's right.
He's a 1-year rental.
He's a 1-year rental.
So here's the thing: hear me out. Aguilar is on his last year of his contract. So that's kind of a 1-for-1 there in my eye. You're getting 1 year versus 1 year. Because the Eagles are not going to bring him on for what kind of money he would think he could make out in the open market next
And look
year.
at Houston. They got totally shellacked by the Cowboys. They had zero offense. Literally, they need an offensive player. So
Yeah, they
the fact
need
is,
three
you
major
can
players.
understand why they'd want Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah.
But would they take Aguilar, who's a younger player, bigger upside, in less contract.
And they can get more for him because, like I said, the three major things they have another OT, another offensive tackle down. They're down a wide receiver and they're down a running back now. So you can either get Alshon maybe, but then that's it. You're gonna get Alshon and maybe another pick. But they need 3 players today, so that's why I'm saying you might get a Vaitai, and instead of an Alshon, you get an Aguilar, and then on top of it, they can still get not the top tier running back that they would hope to get. But you might get, I don't know. I think
DeAndre Hopkins and Alshon Jeffrey and then Will Fuller sounds a lot more satisfying than DeAndre Hopkins and Nelson Aguilar. That's just my opinion.
Well, it sure does because
Jeffrey.
Let's face it, Jeffrey was a big star in the Super Bowl, big star for the Bears. He's a big name. So I think if you're a Houston general manager, you're going to get your team a lot more excited. If you're unloading Clowney, obviously people are going to be upset. A la Andrew Luck retiring, as we discussed earlier. But the fact that you're a GM, though, you need offense. Vaitai is a big lineman. He's been up and down. What are your thoughts?
Bad idea for Houston because you got to get a tackle as a bookend position. And you look at, I would even, if I was Houston, I'd maybe even flip Clowney for Dillard straight up, which you guys might not do.
I think they're going to trade
how
Dillard.
about this one? I would trade for Mailata. Because Mailata is better than Vaitai because he's young. He has a huge ceiling, and if you develop
now, they need somebody now. Mailata obviously is not ready right now.
He's not ready.
They would have never got Dillard.
But guess what? Mailata. How about Mailata and Aguilar? I drive them.
Isn't
to the airport
Alshon? Isn't Jeffrey a free agent after this year?
No,
I don't know.
He's got 2 more years. This year, next year. Why do you think they brought JJ in?
What?
Because he's going to take. Because think about it, JJ when Alshon
Whiteside,
Whiteside,
the Stanford kid.
Our second Whiteside is going to. He's going to probably be he's the next Alshon.
I think that Houston needs a back since Lamar Miller is out. So I really do. I don't think Howard's that much to give up. I don't view Howard very highly.
Down back, they got Duke Johnson, but he's more of the passing running back.
And who was the receiver who got hurt?
Last year for the Texans?
For the Texans.
Will Fuller?
But actually, the Texans, if you look at their receivers, though, Steven, you have Kiki Cutie, who's just as good as Aguilar. You have DeAndre Hopkins. I actually think now, thinking about it, the Texans' wide receivers are good. I'd inquire about Dallas Goedert. That would be a guy I'd inquire about. Dallas Goedert.
Now,
they need a tight end. They need a tight end badly.
That's a thought.
They have no tight end.
But that would be a 1-for-1. You're not getting Dallas Goedert in the first-round pick. Sorry,
maybe Dallas in a fourth.
Maybe
Dallas.
That's something that the Eagles, Howie and them would have to sit there and think about.
Because the Texans,
I think Goddard. I think losing Goddard or Aguilar to me would be about the same.
No, I view Goddard a lot higher than Aguilar.
Well, the point is, you've got Zach Ertz. You've got your great tight end. You have one of the best tight ends. You would still have you know obviously Deshaun hurt his finger, but you still have him for the whole year.
He'll be fine.
You've got Alshon, you've got Aguilar. You're loaded. You're loaded at that position, and essentially Goddard is kind of a wide receiver. He's not a great blocker. Him and Ertz are somewhat similar.
Bruce, I'm going to give you this proposal.
And Whiteside, of course, you're totally loaded.
Tell me if you would take this deal.
Okay.
And then then you guys can edit the deal.
All right.
I'm going to try to get the most out of you guys. Third round. I'm the Houston guy. Okay. A third rounder, Mailata, Goddard, and Corey Clement. Would you do the deal?
I don't like giving up Corey Clement, honestly.
For 1 year rental.
I think that Corey is one of our.
Would do that.
I don't think it's a 1 year rental, Al. I think you're going to pay Jadeveon the most money ever.
He's a free agent. He can decide if he wants to go on the market. Then you're taking a risk.
But if you like him, But okay, fine. So that's my deal. So far.
Well, I would say Clement to me is, and again I'm talking as a fan, one of my favorite running backs. I look at Sproles. This is his last year. I look at Miles Sanders, I guess.
I think he'll be the number one.
I think he's going to be good, but it's his first year.
Yeah,
you can't count on him to be great.
Yeah,
you got Howard as the third down. I see Clement, who's now really coming into health. I wouldn't want to lose him.
I think he's an Eagle for life.
Howie Roseman is all in this year. I just don't think he's going to unload a guy. Now, do I think he's going to unload Alshon Jeffrey? I really don't think he will.
I think you're more likely
Aguilar,
to
I think you would let him have Mailata. Great upside. not ready to play right now, not ready for prime time.
But Mailata's a developmental guy, so if I was Houston, I'd want a tackle, which is so valuable in this league. I want Mailata, Goddard, and a third rounder. That's the basis of my proposal. I think Goddard would be perfect for the Houston Texans. But I think that what you guys are going to end up...
be perfect for anybody.
What you guys are going to end up... Well, they have no tight ends at all.
Well,
That's their weak point.
Anybody's going to... Anybody at this
Aguilar
point
to the Houston Kiki QT. Aguilar would be the 4th wide receiver in Houston. He wouldn't even play in Houston. That would be a dumb decision by the Texans. I also think Alshon Jeffrey is stupid. He's making $16 million a year in the locker room in Philadelphia. He doesn't exactly get along with Carson Wentz, so he's not exactly a choir boy in the locker room.
I don't believe that story. We're talking about that tabloid story
about last year
about Wentz.
Oh, Sanford Laquito put that story
by the way,
out.
yeah, right. By the way, this was anonymous. I don't think Alshon owned those.
But a lot of those sources came out that it was one person, and it was one of the ex-coaches that didn't like Carson and didn't, and a lot of this stuff was taken out of context from people who were joking around and not knowing they were on the record. So I wouldn't quote that story.
All right, let's think about this from Houston, though. Wide receiver, they don't need. They need a running back. They need a tight end. And then defensively, they could use a cornerback. If the Eagles had a corner to give up.
I think the Eagles could use. I think that's our weakest.
They're saying O-line, offensive tackle, a running back, and a wide receiver is the 3 big needs right now for Houston more than anything.
For Houston, even though they have QT, they have Fuller and Hopkins.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I think they're stacked at the wide receiver because Hopkins, to me, is just a souped-up Alshon Jeffrey.
QT?
What?
How old's QT?
He's very young.
See, that might be the problem.
But so is Aguilar. I don't think Aguilar's that good.
Aguilar is now a seasoned veteran. He's been in the league for will be 5 years now. He has the abilities. We've seen him in action. So, yeah, he would definitely be an upgrade to QT. To say he's good as QT is QT don't have the experience to say that.
Man.
So this is going off the trade topic a little bit. I'm just curious what you guys think. Who do you think has the better overall year between Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson?
I would think I personally think that Carson Wentz will have a better year. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins makes every quarterback look good. He might be. Is there anybody better than him?
I'm not sure the relationship between Bill O'Brien and Deshaun Watson is that cohesive. So for that reason, I think Carson Wentz is going to have.
I think Houston is in flux constantly. I think
Bill O'Brien is one of those coaches who truly is on the bubble. I'm not a big Houston fan. Now, again, I'm not going to say that preseason is going to. But I just saw the way they had nothing.
They look bad against.
They look terrible, and Deshaun Watson bounce back here. Are you buyer or seller on him?
I think
he didn't have a bad.
I think Watson is pretty good, but I view Carson Wentz. I have super high expectations in this offense. If he could stay healthy, the dude's an MVP candidate. He's a better thrower than Deshaun. I think Wentz is going to have a huge year. I have high expectations for him.
Deshaun, he kind of falls into my Baker Mayfield void for me right now.
Right.
He's kind of I'm not really sold on him just yet. Like a lot of people are really sold on him. Really if you look at these quarterback ratings, you see Watson at like number 4, and you see Carson Wentz back at 11. And
right.
I think that's really, not just being an Eagles fan, I just think that's really backwards because he has the tangible to do this, to be that. He doesn't have the experience, and he has been some injury issues as well. So I'm not sold on him. Just like I said with Baker Mayfield, a lot of people are already anointing him going to bring the Browns to the promised land they've been waiting to get to for 20, 30 years now. I'm not sold on him either. There's a lot of issues with him I see, a lot, especially in the immaturity issues that, and we all know the Browns are where NFL players go to die or never be born.
But I just think Deshaun Watson, when you look at how steady he is, his personality, he's one of the most decorated college players ever. Steven, I could never see him sucking in the NFL. I could never see him being a bust or being awful. I look at Carson Wentz, though. It's not really getting down on Deshaun Watson. I just think Wentz is that special. I think Deshaun is safely a franchise quarterback in this league. I have confidence he'll be good. I don't know if he'll be great, but I still think he'll be a solid option as a quarterback.
So I have another question for you guys. That was a great one, Steven. I have a question. On the defensive side of the ball, what surprise cut? Who's going to get cut that you're just not expecting to get cut? And across, and I know you follow, obviously in fantasy, you don't really focus on the defense as much, the individual players, but somebody's going to get cut that you're not expecting. And they've got, obviously, Vinny Curry, they just signed it. I think they signed him at a fairly good number. He's a good locker room guy. I don't see him getting cut. I see him making the team. There's a guy named Hall who has actually played very well.
Yeah.
Who is kind of a lean.
Deshaun Hall?
Wide receiver.
He's a defensive end, isn't he,
wide
Al?
receiver.
He's a pass rusher.
Yeah, the Hall that he's thinking of.
There's two Halls on the team, actually.
Yeah, I think
so the Hall I'm talking
wide
about is
receiver.
number 74.
A defensive tackle?
I think he's a defensive end.
I think
Al.
he's from A&M, right?
You got a
Yeah,
call.
we got a call. Here we go.
And then I'll come up with a question now. Welcome in the Rover.
Thanks, Doc, Spencer. Al, how is everything?
What's going
Great
on, brother?
night. Just got out of the way.
Headphones.
Noticed that you guys are on Facebook. Want to say hello?
It's great to hear from you, man. And really was good seeing you the other day at the Fan Fest. That was really a fun thing. We got to see a bunch of people there, and it was great weather. And so our sister station, The Fanatic, did very well. And Coach, how was your bike ride? Did you have a good bike ride?
Oh, it's great. Did 30 miles on the bike, 9 miles on. We still got it fine tuned. We need to get done. We're at a race in a couple hours. We're gearing up, Doc. I'll probably hope they'll want a PRP when I'm done this thing. But,
Well,
keep in mind.
thankfully, you will be candidate for the Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. Thanks for bringing that up. Their operators are on duty, 610-222-5675. One of our burning questions of the day was Sean Rodriguez. The Sean Rodriguez, Josh, Coach Dage, they were talking about his entitlement comments about the fans. Could you weigh in on that for us?
Oh, first of all, for someone of Sean Rodriguez's caliber, who's the only reason he's on the team is because of the manager, which no one stands for in the city. I mean, I love Jim Salisbury's first question he asked about Sean Rodriguez last night, and Gabe, it was like he looked like a 3-year-old kid in front of Santa after getting a big present. Couldn't smile big enough about Sean Rodriguez. Sean Rodriguez embarrassed himself. You know what? When they asked Reese Hoskins, who is a class act and is going through a terrible slump, and by far is one of the best Phillies hitters in recent memory, and on a 3-year span is in a terrible slump, Reese denied. He didn't even hear the boos. Reese is, I hope he's a Philly forever. He's a class act, true and true. And for a guy who, Sean Rodriguez, who shouldn't even be on the team, come out and say what he said about Philadelphia, you know what, buddy? Take you and Gabe and stick it, okay? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. God, he was 1 for 20 going into the last night's hit. I'm so tired.
That was the point that was made earlier.
15 minutes of fame's up, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Coach, it's Spencer Grossinger here from Rover Sports. I wanted to introduce myself. We've been arguing over the weekend, and I'm sorry I got to call you back. I saw you called me today. But we were talking about Andrew Luck, and you were very disappointed in the Indianapolis Colt fans. Just talk about Andrew Luck's retirement. You've been around guys that you're a coach, so you've been around college athletes that were in tears, and you've been around guys that have had to quit because of injuries. So talk about Andrew Luck, his whole situation, and what you think about the retirement.
Well, Spence, obviously we disagree because I think you see it from a fan's perspective, and I see it from a player's perspective. I've been in that locker room where they had to tell Siobhan Landry he's done. You can't play anymore. And the Angel Garcia is that, you've torn 3 ACLs in the last 18 months. It's not, you can't go anymore. And they don't want to give up the game they love because at 20, they're being forced. And Andrew Luck, in this case, he doesn't want to live with the pain anymore. Is he the Brett Favre or the old school guy that everybody, lives and dies for? No, he's not. You know what he is? He's a businessman. And he just doesn't want to deal with the pain. And guess what? I got to be honest with you. Doc, you've seen former players come into your office that are in excruciating pain. You don't want to live like that. You don't want to, and you shouldn't have to. And is that maybe the new age in football? Let's be honest. I think football players are kind of like cattle. You just cut it back. 2 to 3 year life expectancy. I think the life expectancy of an NFL player is 3 years. And if Andrew Luck chooses not to do that, you know what? God bless him. Do I think it's the last time we'll see Andrew Luck on a football field? I don't. And I think that's why the Colts left in good faith. do I understand the fans' perspective? Here's the sad reality. Adam Schefter reported it, and he should have not kind of held back and maybe let them have that moment. But you've got to. Andrew Luck's doing what's best for him. And anyone who I've never played professional football, I don't think anybody on the panel has. But
not that I've checked lately. Although Al looks like he played.
It looks like I ate one.
Former player right here, Al Zafiri, guard at in high school.
Tackle.
Sorry.
As you were saying.
Yeah, so I mean, Spence, I understand the fans' perspective. You don't do that to a class act. I mean, he's obviously in a lot of pain. He doesn't want to deal with it anymore, man.
I don't think we're arguing, Spencer. I don't think
we're not. I'm not arguing, and you might have misconstrued like what I was texting you about. I'm not blaming Andrew Luck for leaving the game of football. He's a free man. He can do whatever he wants. And the fans booing, they've had no time to recover. It's more about their franchise going up in smoke than anything. This is the most valuable asset of their franchise for the next 10 years, and he's leaving. And also the fans are sad that Andrew Luck is not going to be a quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. They're not calling him weak for retiring. They know how much abuse he took, but they're just so angry and sad that they're not going to ever see Andrew Luck in a Colts uniform again.
Also, the fact that they went from being a playoff team to a team that's probably not even
exactly. And this is unprecedented for a guy to retire like in this way. The season's basically here. It's similar to a Vontae Davis situation where it was week 2 where he stepped away from the game, and the timing was very bad. There's a reason that they wanted the press conference to happen on a Sunday so that the fan reaction, so the fans would have more time to appropriately react, because they knew that by sandbagging it on Saturday night, they knew this reaction would happen, and of course it happened, and it was predictable.
I mean, Spencer, here's the deal. With all due respect to the fans, you know, Philadelphia gets a bad rap. And if this would have happened in Philadelphia, it would be national news. I'm sure Aaron Anderson Cooper would talk about how horrible the Philadelphia fans are. Some politician might jump up and say, that's what's wrong with Philadelphia. They can save it, okay? Guess what? The fans are great people, and I understand they're upset. But celebrate this guy for what he is. T.Y. Hilton, his best friend on the team. Zach Ertz has come out and said, you know what? Guys have been teammates with him. The thing, though, is you never want to give up. Spencer, I'm 41 years old. I just got out of the lake out in Westchester, and I'm sprinting down to play softball tonight, and I got 2 games of flag football on Thursday. I don't want to give anything up because I'm still competitive. I love it. Your dad still plays tennis at 60. You know, there's that fire. But could you imagine making millions and you're forced to give it up in the greatest spotlight in the world? No, it's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing. So
that's great that players still love to play the game of football. And
I think Charlie Bowles had a very insightful comment, and I think this is well put. Luck chose his wife over his rehab, playing with his children over walking with a cane, and owning the memories over CTE. And Charles is right. That it's every bit his decision to make. And what I would do, just looking forward, if I'm the Indianapolis franchise, I bring him back, not in the first game, but I bring him back maybe game 3, game 4, and you build it up right. And you see those fans, and I believe the Indianapolis are the good people.
I believe they're going to applaud.
I'll give him a 10 to 15-minute standing ovation when they have a chance to process everything.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
But when you just hit them on a third preseason game,
Coach,
let's face it, anybody who's still at a preseason game at the end of the third quarter has got to be halfway in the bag anyway.
And you know what? It's not. I'm not saying it's Philly fans. I'm not saying
exactly.
I'm not saying that this is Philly fans, guys. But I feel like a lot of people are so insecure about their fan bases that they looked at the Indianapolis fans and they almost like enjoyed blaming the Colts fans, or like, see, that fan base is so awful. I think that it's more of a personal insecurity about their own fan base, a lot of people, that they threw stones at these Colt fans when in reality they would have been booing as well.
You're telling me if this was Carson Wentz, Eagles fans are not booing him after that preseason game as he walks off the field?
I think that they would boo. I think Giants fans would
boo.
Even my own fan base. Any fan base would have booed, Steven.
I think if you
I don't
look
blame
at another,
them. Do you blame them?
Look at another scenario.
Yeah.
In other words, you're getting ready to start. Let's say it's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had plenty of injuries. He really has. And you know, it's the beginning. It's the end of the preseason, He's standing there in a sports shirt, a Nike shirt, wearing his Colts uniform, his horseshoe. Looks fine. He walks on the field. He's with them. And all of a sudden, the rumors are murmuring around that he's retiring. And it's not even really confirmed. It's just rumors. Did they announce it over the public address system?
No, what happened?
What actually happens?
It's your phones. What do you get? You get these notifications,
Schefter.
and it's coming from reliable sources. So that's why I think people reacted the way they did. You got, once again, fans who also are emotional creatures who react to good things and bad things. I don't care what city you're a fan of. You're going to have a reaction. Like you said, here's a guy standing on the sidelines. Like everything's normal. Bing, Adam Schefter comes out and says Colts quarterback Andrew Luck to retire.
You'd be stunned. Weren't you stunned? I mean, I'm in the movie.
What did you expect to happen?
Spencer text. I'm in the movie.
Exactly.
No.
You were text. You literally texted me in the movie.
People are just living these.
Everybody was
they want
texting
people
me.
to be robots.
Didn't everything blow up? Didn't your phone?
Yeah.
Didn't your phone blow up?
They want people to be robots. I was
I went and
shocked.
posted it right away myself on my stuff. So.
I couldn't. I had to confirm it was real. Obviously, it completely shocked me because this guy was getting ready to play a regular season game.
Come across the outlet it came across right away, I probably would have started researching right away.
I want to do a little rapid fire here. We're on the back end of our show. It's been a great show. I want to thank Bruce, of course, for staying here and opening up the show. I'm sorry, of course, of my irresponsibility. But let's get to
You were only 5 minutes late. Actually, for you, that's early.
I appreciate that. I'm going to do some rapid fire. Are you guys prepared to make Jadeveon Clowney a $22 million man over 4 years? So that means maybe $88 million over 4 years, because I think he's going to demand that money. So if you guys want Clowney, or do you want to?
You're not allowed to. Okay, I'm going to answer firstly. I think Al's right. If you have a franchise tagged guy, I'm not sure you can sign him to a long-term deal.
Not till next year.
So the point is, let me answer the question. If he plays really well and he has a great year, he's a good locker room guy, would I give him the big money for 4 years after that? The answer is yes. Steven, I see you're nodding. Oh, here we go.
The boo birds are coming down.
Sean's laughing.
He's laughing.
What's he going to do? Start crying?
Boo!
That's his dad. His dad's the only one clapping.
And what a propaganda by the by Comcast to show the one fan just standing up.
I hope he strikes out.
Do you hope he strikes out?
We are listening right now to the boos. This is the only time you'll be hearing an overdub.
Can't stand that guy.
I changed my mind. I hope he gets a hit.
Batting average
I hope he strikes out.
Man on second.
He'll get a hit.
Bring in the run.
Let him bring in the run. And this is nobody cares anymore. Nobody will care.
Guess what?
Nobody will
If
care.
Rodriguez gets a hit, he should give a middle finger to the crowd.
No. What he's going to do? This is what he's going to do. If he has a decent game tonight, he's going to go. And I will tell you exactly how this presser will go. He will sit there and go. He
got hit. Yeah.
He gets it.
Sean Rodriguez gets hit. Let's hear.
Everybody's cheering now.
They're cheering getting hit.
I don't know if he's cheering getting hit or cheering that he get on base.
That pitcher now is a huge Philly fan.
Yeah.
But listen, if Rodriguez every at bat
That's pretty funny, guys. Let's explain for those. Not everybody has a television. Sean Rodriguez just got up. He got booed roundly. And he got hit by a pitch, and then everybody was cheering. Now, question. Are they cheering because he got to first base? I think they're cheering because he got hit. Yeah. We are in Philly. That was pretty good.
I want to commend Rodriguez because I'm going to watch the rest of this game just to see this kid play.
Well, let me answer. I'll follow up your question.
Go right ahead. So we are
trying to cut you off with that, but I thought
that was kind of important to break in with that.
So
breaking news here on Rover Sports.
So my answer to the Clowney situation is, put it this way. It's all about position, okay? That's what anytime you make a negotiation, it's all about your position. So let's think about it. The Eagles are $20 million under the cap, still signing their franchise quarterback. They're $20 million under the cap.
That's pretty cool. That's how he's magic.
If you can somehow release 2 or 3 guys not release, but trade them off. So say with my idea, they trade Aguilar, get an O lineman like Big V, and maybe one of our running backs. That's another $15-ish million. So now we're $35 million. We can now negotiate. And that's how I look at it. And they only have to pay him his franchise tag this year. And so they'll be going in there with $35 million plus the cap's going up. And they can renegotiate other people's contract. And let's be honest, when it comes to contract, Howie Roseman does no wrong right now. So as I'm concerned,
you know what else I would say? Howie is really smart because another GM like a Matt Klentek, let's say, would jump in, would overpay, but he's playing his cards right. I think he knows Clowney wants to come to Philly. You know, they're watching Seattle carefully. Seattle's got a lot of old guys. Yeah. They don't have as much to invest. The Eagles are loaded. They've got a poverty of excess at wide receiver. They've got Big V.
Unless they want picks.
And
I
most
don't think they want to
importantly,
get picks. I think that Howie's going to be
Seattle has a
but
ton of picks.
I think Howie is going to be stingy with the picks.
Clowney has played. Frank Clark left Seattle. Here in Philadelphia, Clowney's going to see so many one-on-ones because you have Fletcher Cox in the middle of that defense. You have Brandon Graham, Malik Jackson. If he went to Seattle, he would see double teams. But in Philly, I mean, in Houston, he played with J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, Cunningham. He played with an amazing defensive line in Houston with Romeo Crennel, and also Crennel and Schwartz are really similar.
I think some. Sorry to cut you off, Spence. I think something you also have to consider of this hypothetical, if they get Clowney, is not only who are you getting rid of, and even though he's a great player, how does this affect the Eagles long term? 4 years from now.
Well, I think you could imagine that Brandon Graham this should be his last year. Vinny Curry's a 1-year rental.
Didn't Graham just sign?
He just got re-signed. Graham just got re-signed. He's good.
Okay, so that's good.
BG's
but
done.
You could get re-signed, but you could always. I'm talking next year. I'm looking next year.
Yeah.
So Barnett, he really has to prove it this year. First year, was off, had a good year, got hurt. What is this? His third year? Barnett's third year?
Third year, yeah.
So you're really looking at a guy coming who had a chronic hamstring injury all year last year, didn't play. He's really he's had a prove me year this year for Barnett. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I cut him loose. I cut him loose.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to go around the league here with Steve Shoemaker. We have stepping in here, some fantasy. I'm going to give you a couple names of guys that I'm excited about in teams. I think the Bills and Josh Allen have a big year this year. I think Josh Allen and Buffalo can be a team that can really compete. I also look at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's looked great in the preseason with Nick Foles. Now with Luck out, I think the Jags can win that division. What do you think about those two teams, Buffalo and Jacksonville?
I'm high on Jacksonville. They have a tough first week matchup against the Chiefs, even though that's in Jacksonville. But I'm not really high on the Bills. I know they have a top.
Most people aren't.
I don't know if you'd say top 3, but top 5 defense in the league. But I'm not set on their offense. LaShawn McCoy hasn't been the same he's been. Frank Gore's old. They don't have a great running game. Don't know a whole lot.
How about the wide receivers in Buffalo? Can you share that with us?
Cole Beasley. I don't know who else.
Foster, Robert Foster, Zay Jones.
I do like Josh Allen as a quarterback. I'm just not set on their offense.
And then they have Dawson Knox, but they also have Singletary, who might take over for Shady McCoy. Who's your surprise team then in the NFL? Like a real surprise playoff team?
I think people are not going to agree with me on this, but I think you can't sleep on the Oakland Raiders. I think I'm excited for Hard Knocks tonight, but
I've done it during Hard Knocks. I slept on them plenty.
Have you slept literally
during Hard Knocks? Yes.
Hear me out. If AB gets that helmet thing figured out and he's going to be the AB we always know, I'm really high on Josh Jacobs. I think John Gruden is putting that team in the right direction. I really do.
I agree. And why do you think – I'm more interested to know why you're sleeping during Hard Knocks. I think Gruden's been fantastic. I think he's one of the best coaches that Hard Knocks has ever had.
I don't dismiss Gruden as a coach. Gruden's also he's his own company. He has his own brand. And I'm kind of bored with it.
He's a clown.
I'm not really bored with John Gruden at all.
I just think –
And I don't think you are either, Bruce.
I don't think a coach – should outshine his players. And I think that's what's happening. And that's why I would be down on the Raiders because, there's there's not a lot of cohesion in that team. AB is definitely a wild card. Could be great. Could cause more problems than help. So that's my problem with them. But overall, end-all, be-all is I think he's their worst enemy as the coach because he tries to outshine his own players.
Yeah. And
here's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Does Dabo Swinney outshine his players? He's such a big personality. In other words, he's a huge personality too. Great story. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Does he outshine the Clemson
Well,
Tigers?
I'm a big.
What do you think about
well,
that?
first off, I am a Gruden guy. I like John Gruden. I think he loves his players dearly. I think he puts them in
You buy
position
into
to
his
succeed.
brand?
I buy into the brand of John Gruden. I'm
Okay.
kind of a Gruden guy. I just think he's funny. He's enthusiastic. He loves the game. But Dabo, in college, Bruce, these guys are not able really to market themselves. And in college, they're only there for 4 years. So when you think of Alabama, you think of Nick Saban. When you think of Clemson, it's Dabo. And also, if I'm in sports talk radio, I can't insult a 20-year-old college kid, but I could totally insult the way that he's coached. So when you look at Manny Diaz or Gus Malzahn or any coach in college, James Franklin, you're not going to insult the kid. You're going to insult the coach. So I think in every college program, the coach is more important than – it's not just Dabo. I think you look at Paterno,
So you're talking
Urban.
NFL's a different breed.
Totally different,
So
yeah.
think of another example like Gruden where the coach, well, obviously the Patriots,
Bill
but you've got Belichick. Does he outshine his players?
It's a great example.
I don't think he really does.
Let me
'cause
think.
He doesn't hardly say anything.
Right.
He's so understated. Tom Brady is that franchise, but Belichick really is the underpinnings of it. Does Belichick?
great question.
Does he outshine his team?
It's a great
What do you
question.
think?
He does. I'm going to mention a couple of other examples. You guys are welcome to chime in. I think McVay is more popular than maybe other than Todd Gurley or Donald. McVay totally outshines his players. I think
in a good way, though. In a productive way.
most times it's Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid. I think Adam Gase for the Jets. I think he's a lightning rod, you know?
He's crazy. He's a crazy story with Adam Gase.
I mean, Doug
We could talk about him
Doug,
for an hour.
Doug Peterson wrote his own book after the Super Bowl. I mean, Doug wrote a book. So you know.
Everybody writes a book after the Super Bowl. I hate to break it to you. That's
Come on, but coaches are allowed to have lives.
I'm
you know?
not saying the coach can't be a dynamic person, but Gruden is Doug Peterson outshining at all any of his players?
I understand
Did he
that.
outshine
Gruden's
Foles?
another level of ego.
Well, Gruden, like Lily, is the only coach that I know of. He actually has people follow him around, record everything he does. His not outside of Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm.
His pressers, he puts it on his website. He's a brand.
He is.
So
I'll give you that.
What
I'll give you
happens
that.
then is you get lost. Things get lost in translation.
I like entertainment, and I'm not a diehard fan.
I'm not against it as long as it ain't here in Philly.
Exactly.
Now,
So
and,
Andy Reid.
Well, I'm just
Andy
going to
Reid might
I would take this
outshine.
opportunity to thank everybody who's on Bruce Grossinger live stream and who's also on Rover Sports. Al Zafiri did a wonderful job. The green screen actually came out great today. Finally found a shirt that doesn't make me look green myself.
Change the lighting too.
Yeah, we changed the lighting. It's
Yeah.
good. So this is the best green screen we have. Stephen Shoemaker, very insightful, our national fantasy expert. Spencer G, want to thank you as always.
Thank
As
you.
always,
Happy to be
for
here.
Rover Sports, good night and good sports.